Hey everyone, and welcome to yet another beautiful morning here in Austin, Texas. It's actually the last day of January of 2024, and the car's showing actually 18 degrees Celsius. Let's talk about the car. So this is a Subaru Outback Wilderness. So it's got the 2.4 litre turbo with around 260 horsepower with a CVT. Now you might be asking, well, why did I end up in a Subaru Outback when I was basically going to be going for an EV, specifically Tesla Model Y long range? That'll be the dual motor all-wheel drive. And why didn't I go for that as the initial purchase, the first car that I bought here in the US? And the key there is, it's because it's the first car I bought in the US. Oh, that's cool. There's a little M2 in front of me. It's actually the new one, and in black. Actually, let's show you everyone. I don't know if you guys can see it. There we go. That's the M2. It looks cool with the quad exhaust pipes and what have you. Yeah, so this car is an internal combustion car. It's a great little, cracking little car actually, and for the most part, the Model Y would have been the preferable first option had it not been for the fact that I'm relatively new in this country and I don't have a credit rating. So what I mean by that is my credit rating in the US, because I'm so new to the country, is 0. I have 0 credit rating. I don't appear in any of the searches. So far as the banks are concerned, I actually do not exist. Now that's not necessarily a bad thing or a good thing. It's a part of life. So it's just an experience that I have to go through and to see how life is for someone who is credit rating limited. By limited, I mean nothing. Like you might have a credit rating of 400, 450, 500. It goes all the way up to 850, which is the pinnacle of credit rating worthiness. But anyway, I digress. So I've got credit rating of 0, and if I go to Tesla to buy the car, I would be clobbered with a relatively high interest rate. It's not just Tesla, by the way, it's every car manufacturer. With Tesla, it's actually a little bit more reasonable. So I could have got a credit interest rate of around 15% APR. And from Hyundai, no one's going to believe what sort of APR they gave me in order to buy an actual Ioniq 5. I was looking at an Ioniq 5 as well, just to see, because it's a little bit cheaper than the Model Y long range. But in the end, it worked out that they gave me a quote, an APR of 25%. 25% APR. Like, that is a phenomenal amount of money. And to put it into context, I'll just do a little illustration of exactly what that means. That 25% APR, what does that mean? Well, there's an approximate calculation that we can do to see exactly how much interest I would be paying every year. Let's say for every $10,000 that I was borrowing to purchase the vehicle. So 25% APR means you can round it to 12.5% interest per year per $10,000. So what that equates to is for every $10,000 that I borrow, I'll be paying $1,250 back in interest alone every year. So if I borrowed $30,000, you can triple that $1,250 to $3,750 per year. And if I borrow that money over 4 years, you can see that it all adds up pretty quickly. So essentially, I'm paying back $12,500 of interest on $10,000 over 4 years, or somewhere along the lines. It's approximate value. It doesn't really matter. It's high. If you're being quoted an APR of 25%, just walk away. I mean, the dealership would want you to take the credit. And by the way, the excuse that they gave me from Hyundai, the dealership I was dealing with, I won't give their name because I think they're horrible. They basically said to me that I should take the car and take the 25% APR, and when my credit worthiness increases, I can then refinance. Now, what that basically means is I would be taking the loan out and paying through the nose for this interest rate. Then I would then refinance and get a lower rate, perhaps 15% or 10% or 7% over time. But what that means is the dealership is actually making their money, because they actually get a bonus for signing you up for credit. And if they sign you up for credit, or me, for a 25% APR, they're going to be getting a kickback of, I'm going to hazard a guess to say $10,000 on top of the profit they'll be making on the car itself, which is quite ridiculous if you look at it from whichever way direction. But yeah, 25% was astronomical. I could get around 15% APR in a Tesla or any other car manufacturer. Ironically, this is actually a chap called Antonio at the Subaru dealership that explained this to me. He said that basically, and he's the finance person at the Subaru where I bought this car, and I think for the most part, I've been to every single dealership, whether it's Hyundai, whether it's Ford or Toyota, etc. I've been to a load of different dealerships just to sort of check and test the waters exactly what's happening and how I can purchase a car, what the actual process might be. And the guys at Subaru were genuinely nice, guys and girls. And so we went with a Subaru for that reason. It was actually reasonable people, and they were charging us whatever the value of the car was, whatever it was being advertised for online, which is perfect. That means that I don't necessarily have to think. I mean, they probably made their money, don't get me wrong, but at least they were being honest about it. And for me, it just makes it a much more palatable experience to be able to sort of buy something and know that I'm paying the price that was quoted initially online or whatever else. So actually, I went all the way up to Dallas to get this car. So let's get back to Tesla. Tesla at around $50,000 or $51,000, including taxes on the road, it's still much more expensive than this car, which equated to around $40,000, including all taxes. So it's a $10,000 difference. In the grand scheme of things, it's worthwhile investing that extra $10,000 in a Tesla, primarily because although this car is relatively performant at 260 horsepower, the Tesla is much more performant, as you can imagine. There's some pros and cons, and I'll make another video to go through the pros and cons of having an internal combustion car versus a Tesla EV or a traditional manufacturer EV vehicle. Because Tesla is actually technically more of a semiconductor company than a traditional car manufacturer in the grand scheme of things, and traditional car manufacturers still do build quality relatively well. The infrastructure for pump gas or petrol is actually still ahead of traditional manufacturers' EV options. Tesla obviously are the exception to the rule, and they've started to roll out their electric infrastructure quite a bit around the globe. Actually, it's not just in the US. In the US, it's actually phenomenal. I didn't want to pay the extra $10,000 because I'd be paying 15% interest on that extra $10,000, and I didn't necessarily want to pay that if we were looking at 25%. But luckily, Tesla would be offering me around 15%. But even then, I didn't want to pay the extra interest because it's just money for nothing. And I knew that in time I'd be able to sort of work to get my credit rating up, because that's one of the targets that I have, because everybody needs credit. For the most part, like, the whole of the US functions on your credit score, which is ridiculous. You can build it up relatively quickly, but for someone like me, the first 6 months in the country, like zero credit, don't even appear in the credit rating agencies. You can open a bank account with your social security number, etc., but I don't want to go into too much details there. It's boring. But everybody needs credit, and if you're a young person watching this, by the way, get yourself a credit card with a nominal figure. Or if you can't get a credit card, get yourself something like a prepaid card and put some money into that card yourself. So get your own collateral into that card if the bank's not willing to take a chance on you, and pay with that credit card, and pay off your credit card at the end of every month. Don't pay any interest, and build your credit rating, because when the time comes and you need to make these sort of big purchases like a car, it's the difference between qualifying for 15% interest rate, APR, versus any of the advertised figures that car manufacturers might be showing. For example, like for this car, if I had credit, I would be essentially paying 3% interest, 2.9% interest. But I didn't qualify for that, obviously, because I have zero credit. So I qualified for 12% interest rate, and that was through Chase Bank, which Subaru Finance worked with. But anyway, ended up getting this car because it's much cheaper than the Model Y, and we were going to get an internal combustion car as a just-in-case vehicle anyway. So for the most part, all of the driving that my wife and I do is perfectly suited for an EV, which is the irony, actually, because if Tesla had an option to work with immigrants such as myself, where I can show that I'm actually gainfully employed and I'm able to make the monthly payments, I would have been able to actually get the vehicle. And I did speak to Tesla on the phone with this. So they don't have a traditional dealership infrastructure, so therefore I couldn't actually go to a dealership to speak about any sort of deal that they could perhaps create for me as an outlier, and I am a corner case. They have places where you can go and test drive their cars, Tesla, but they don't have a traditional finance person that I could speak with. And when I spoke to the person on the phone, they're like, well, it is what it is. This is what we're advertising. I mean, they were nice about it, but they didn't necessarily create a platform for me to be able to sort of take advantage of an opportunity to be able to buy one of their vehicles. That's fine, it's okay. I mean, I didn't end up with one of their cars in the end, and ended up with a Subaru, which is great for as a just-in-case car. But electric cars suit the lifestyle that my wife and I have much better, because we do very short journeys, generally in the city. We don't necessarily travel further afield. And with a turbo car like this, with internal combustion cars in general, the best thing you can do for them is to make sure that you're not overtly stressing the engine without getting some heat into the motor itself. And what I mean by that is, when you start the car, the idea is you don't just set off. You let it warm up first. In electric cars, you don't have to do that. You can just start the car. There's no engine block or such to heat up. You just set off, which is great. And it's exactly what we'd be hoping to do. But with this car, you start it, you wait for a little while, so it starts at around, it idles at 2,000 RPM, believe it or not, when you first start it. And it kind of gets a little bit of heat into the motor. The 2,000 RPM then drops to around 800 RPM while it's idling. In a Model Y, I wouldn't necessarily have to do that at all, like in any way, shape or form. I could just sort of start it and go, which would be great. But I didn't have that option, so I got the just-in-case vehicle. So this will be more for long journeys, although it is possible to do long journeys in an electric car across the US, especially when going east, going west. You'd have to be a little bit careful, I would say. What I'm trying to say is, the finance aspect, it just didn't marry up. That's why I wouldn't get the Model Y. And the secondary aspect is the Model 3 Highland, the new updated, uprated version of the Model 3 is now on the roads in the US. The order books are open to be able to order one through Tesla directly themselves. That means that the Model Y is not going to be too far behind. And the Model Y is a phenomenally popular car. And if I buy the current outgoing version, and although there are some decent deals to be had, as I said, like the inventory prices are quite good. You can actually get one for as low as $45,000. I've seen it a little bit lower than that on occasion. Those inventory cars are few and far between, and they sell very quickly, but they do exist. However, buying the Model Y, the outgoing version, and then having the new Model Y dumped on the general public means that the vehicle value is going to go down quite a bit. Now, I can lease one, and I'm vehemently against leasing a car that I won't be given the opportunity at all to purchase at the end of the lease period. So that means all the money I'll be paying is going down the toilet, as far as I'm concerned, as a financial investment. Those are the two main reasons behind why I didn't end up with a Model Y as a first car. I'm waiting for the new Model Y to come out, and then I will be actually buying one. By that time, hopefully, my credit rating would have appeared, and hopefully it's something. I don't know what a reasonable credit rating is. If perfect is 850, and I guess if I end up with like 600, I guess that's okay. I don't know. I'll fill everybody in. Or my credit score will be. It's going to be a surprise to all of us. In fact, in the Tesla website, it does say excellent credit rating, or to be able to qualify for the 7% finance, or just under 7% finance, the credit rating needs to be 720 or above, which I think is quite high in my opinion. And if you go for anything but even like one below 720, I guess, and they hike the interest rate up to like 9%, which I think is quite cheeky. But anyway, long story short, I'll still be getting an EV, definitely, because I just love the way that they behave, and that I don't have to warm the engine up properly before trying to get it up to speed at the right temperature. You know, just making sure I've got at least 80 degrees, 90 degrees Celsius in the motor before I start to. Well, that's when actually the oil is at temperature, and it will be able to actually provide a modicum of protection to the motor itself. So all of those things added up, I'll be getting an EV. I still am a big proponent of EVs. This car is a great just-in-case vehicle. So if you're into contingency plan, this is a good contingency plan car. It's relatively reliable. It does need an oil change every 6,000 miles, but I think that's quite normal. I'll give an update on the oil change. There's a story behind the oil change as well. As I said, I had an oil change in this car just shy of 1,000 miles, and I'll tell the story behind that. For the most part, this is the just-in-case vehicle. It's bought now, and I'm paying through the nose for it, but I'll make some overpayments. And again, that's the other cool thing about the US. You can make overpayments into your car loan on a monthly basis, so you can actually effectively reduce the amount of interest you pay. The percentage rate remains the same, but the overall interest that you pay, if you're overpaying on the capital of the car itself, will reduce. And that's it from me for this fine morning, dear guys and girls. And I'll catch you in the next one. I've got a couple of videos, concepts that are coming up. One will be for comparison between internal combustion and EV, the pros and cons, and I'll also give you the story behind the experience with the dealership networks. Oh my god, it was so crap trying to deal with Hyundai. The manufacturer themselves are brilliant, make some of the best cars in the world as far as I'm concerned. But anyway, that's a story for another time. I'll thank you so much for getting to the end of this video. I really appreciate your time. I really appreciate any comment you might make, any perspective, any advice. By the way, I'm new to the US, so if you have any advice that you want to give, just sort of pop it in the comments below about what to expect, what not to expect. I do live in the great state of Texas. Some of the best people I've met in my life are here. Although they keep saying bless your heart, I'm not entirely sure what that means. I think it's a good thing. Catch you in the next one. See ya.